Welcome to Tami's Soul Speak, featuring animal intuitive and medium Tami Hendricks, offering insight, spirituality, transformation, and clarity to every soul. Now, here's Tami.
Hello, everybody. So good to have you here today. I hope your Thanksgiving was a wonderful time. I hope you had some time for reflection and some time to appreciate where you are. I know at this time of year, as we collectively move into this end of year season, holiday season, we can feel the energy of the collective energy of everybody, and I'm sure you agree when you go out, at the grocery store or on the road, there's so much movement. Everybody is so busy. And so I'm loving that you're spending a little time with me today, and we can just kind of get a game plan for how do we help our animals during this time? How do we help us? I'm pretty sure we have to start with us though, because we affect everybody. And so I'm loving you coming into the room. Hey, Tracy, glad to have you here always. Chrissy, good to see you. And Kirby Douglas, hopefully, is with you. Hi, Claire. Oh, I know. It's good to be here again. I feel like I haven't seen everybody. I'm so glad we're like joining together because, gosh, we got work to do, right? Oh, hi, Katrina. It's always good to see you from Rome. Liz, hi, it's good to see you. I've got Darby and Diana starring later on in the show. Hey, Barb, Canada says hello. Well, hoping, you know, you've all, come through this first like wave of the season starting, and it definitely is getting kicked up a little bit. I know I've experienced this myself, and it's a matter of like how do we manage and how do we help others. Um, so yes, Lori, good to see you. I'm glad Kai is with you. Um, and yes, Don. Oh, hello from let's see. Oh, Winters, Alberta, Canada. That's so cool. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you here. So I'm wondering, now we talked about it, this time of year is busy. So when I know I say it, oh, how are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm super busy. Or we talk to our friends and we've had a busy week or a busy year. What are we busy with? What are we really busy with? I think over Thanksgiving, if we're using that as an analogy here in the States, um, in the start of like the Christmas season, the holiday season, um, physical activity, we're running around getting things, which that actually can be exhausting enough, as you know. Um, and we also have during this time emotional activity. So it's something that I think a lot of times we don't really notice, we aren't paying attention to, and emotions are running rampant at this time of year. So, whether we're in touch with our emotions or not, we can't escape the collective, like, energy field swimming with emotions and the ranging frequencies from negative to positive and everything in between. So it's a wonder, we all have to kind of strap on our little uh, weighted suits, like a weighted blanket, so that we can stay grounded in the midst of movement, emotional movement, all kinds of things. And so it can really be uh, I don't know, I think it can be a challenging time for both people and animals, definitely. It also can be a time we can practice some things ourselves that if you want a spiritual practice, it's living life, especially when it's ramped up. And with the world, the collective from the macrocosm to the microcosm, we're all in it. Animals, people, trees, you name it. We're all together. So if that's the case, I'm wondering with all these different emotions, and maybe if you've been to any kind of party recently or a gathering of people, uh, can you ever feel like the emotions in the room? If you walk into the room, can you feel the vibe of what it is? I know I'm and a lot of us are very sensitive to space. So I know I go in and can immediately, it's like that's your introduction to what's going on. And so I always say that, our emotions and those vibrations, the frequencies gather together, like they're at their own little gathering party. I almost call them whisper buddies because they link together on the same frequency. So everybody, we all have our individual thing going on, but when we gather, then it's like a big soup where we're all engaged together. And Renee, I've created some little graphics for you so you can see this. Renee, if you'd put up the yes, that graphic with the people. So you see these people are all in the same room, just like we are. And you have the differing thoughts, the differing feelings. One person is saying, I'm so stressed. There's so much to do. That's a big one, right? Stress and so much to do, busy. And another person, I'm so glad to see my friends. So she's got a different emotional set point. One of them over at the bar area is like, let's party. And I just got a raise. It's the best day ever. So you've got really high emotions. And then the guy on the right is picking up and linking with the people on the left, that person that says, I'm so stressed out. And then if you look down to the guy next to the dog, he definitely looks like he is having a bad day. But it's interesting how our thoughts run this train of string together sentences that actually reflect how we're feeling. And it's so automatic that we often don't like even know they're in there. They're so prevalent all the time. We don't even notice them anymore. Jeff says, I can sure feel it. The energy going on around me before Thanksgiving led to a panic attack in the store. Not fun. I know, right? I mean, the energy is definitely hyped up, and I'll tell you a little story later on. I ran into that too on Thanksgiving Day myself, and so it's as far as the intense energy around us. We all it would all serve us to be conscious because not only does our energy affect us, but Renee, if you'd put up the next graphic and what this show is about, it also affects our animals as well. And so all those animals in the room are actually having their own experience of us, which is interesting because we don't often think of that. And one of them is really happy. One of them, is like nervous and holding his toy. Different behaviors here. The other one is like, the dog at the bottom near the one holding the toy is like low and trying to like just be still, so he's not moving, not picking up, but he is picking it up. The cat is being the cat, evaluating the food bowl down to its 40% of capacity, and the little one on the right is like, I'm scared and unsure where to go. It our our emotional field definitely affects the animals around us. It sends out like a vibrating wave where everybody gets hit. So it really helps if we can be conscious. And, the question therein is like, how do I do that when I feel like I'm getting assaulted? Um, so I'm curious for you all, what's the emotional climate you've observed over the last few weeks, no matter what part of the world you're in? Has it been quiet? Has it been frenetic? Jeff, I know you felt it and said that it was like crazy right before Thanksgiving, and that affected your body and it affected your emotional climate within. Um, so what would you say, and would you say that it has shifted in the last week or two? I'm just curious because I know from my perspective, what I've observed and what I'm hearing from clients a lot with their animals is they are definitely picking up our vibes. They're definitely uncertain. Too much stimulation, too much everything. Chrissy says, yes, Doug jumps when someone makes a noise. Yeah, yeah, he definitely, it feels frenetic to him. And so it's helps us actually be more aware of ourselves, right? Because we need to know, what am I bringing to the table? What emotions are around. So, Renee, if you would put up that next slide, some of you may recognize this particular slide and know of Abraham Hicks. And I've always really liked this, where they have the range of emotions, and the highest one being number one with joy, the lowest one being fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. They're all that vibe grouped together. Um, if you had to name some things that you're seeing or feeling during this time, even if you've been around people and you've seen, are there any that you've noticed more than others? Are you seeing more on the scale of the left side, 1 to what, 7, where it says tipping point? Or is it mostly the others? I'm just curious what you've seen. And as you look at that, um, where do you land in that? Where do you land in that? How do you know what your range is? How do you know what you're feeling at any given time? How do we actually know that? So, I know from my experience, when I'm in the space of like a lower energy, if I catch myself, I do try to pivot and turn it another way. I try to move toward um, something that's a little different. Um, so, my question, does energy stick? Would you say energy sticks? Does it stay in an area? Would you say, I mean, would you give examples of, what about in a vet office? Do you think that their energy from a previous dog, an animal preceding it, does that stay in the area? Does it in a hospital, you think? What about on the road? What about on the road? What about if there are a bunch of accidents and that somebody just says, "Oh, there are a lot of accidents in that area." There's an energy field that's still there. And so I know years ago I had a dog that was really nervous about going to the vet. I would keep him in the car before bringing him in. I would wait till everybody was clear, and then we bring him into the room. And this particular day, when I brought him into the room, I felt really like I wanted to look around and see what dog was in there or what cat was in there. And it didn't make sense to me, except I could feel it. And he felt it immediately. And the visit actually went south really quickly with him. And I couldn't understand why, because preceding it, he'd been fine. I had done everything I knew to do to make it, calmer for him. And then we walked into this room, and he was aggressive to the vet techs, he was aggressive to the vet, and we ended up that day having to like pull back and say, okay, we're going to come back another day. And what I found out is, prior to us walking into that room, they had had a dog who had aggressively gone crazy in there, and so the vet actually had to sedate him, and he was fine. He got his exam and he left, but that residue was in the room and caused, my dog to react so quickly, and it can seem so out of context. So yes, I want you to be aware that you may be walking into an energy field that, not that we all aren't all day long, that precedes you, that something else has happened. It's amazing that we have to be careful not to jump on that, because then we bring it home and then it affects our animals. So I don't know if you've been starting to see, even with your animals, if you take them out, if there's any like sensitivity in their energy field or what they're doing, or maybe they like walking down a road and they don't today, or it's just I've had so many people reach out that say, my animal, we walk every day, and all of a sudden he won't get down this road. I don't understand what's wrong with his behavior, and so it can often be super super subtle. Um, and Barbara says we leave a lot of our energy everywhere we have been. That's a question. Yes, we do. We actually do. Think about it. Think about if you walk into a party and it's really happy, or you walk into a room that there's been something. Well, let's just say let's walk into a room after a wedding. Do you think we could feel that vibe of the wedding, the celebratory feel? What about a resort? What about going into a resort? The vibe in a resort, usually people are happy, they're laughing. um it uplifts you just to be around that kind of energy. So that energy gets created and we all vibe together, kind of like we're hopping on a bus. And Renee, if you would put through that next graphic, I thought this was cute because really we're all it's like we're all hopping on a bus. So I'd have to question, what bus are you hopping on? Because whatever bus you're hopping on affects everybody. It affects you, it affects your animals. It can be quite frenzied as we get on what we would call, well, maybe we got on the wrong bus that morning. Um, and especially as we're hopping on the bus that heads toward the end of the year, and the beginning of the next, heading into the bus that's heading into the holiday season. Anything that we're grouping together, are you on the frenzied party bus? And then how do you feel after that? What energy do you bring from that? Or are you on the angry, crazy bus? I'm pretty sure the person I encountered on Thanksgiving Day was definitely driving an angry, crazy car. And these sweet little kids are like, we're just getting on the hopeful bus. We're hoping that this is a good day. So you see how it all has different energy. So I think it's important to ask yourself, what bus are you hopping on? Um, Jeff says, I ran into that with Trigger on a hiking trail over the weekend, ran across a guy, didn't care for energy wise, and Trigger reacted heavily. Yes, it's lightning fast. Um, but we always have to remember that it's like a spray. You can feel it, and we always have to. Well, if we're hopping on a bus, who are we taking on the ride with us? You know, who is coming along? And the answer is anybody in your energy field. Anybody that, if you're, I always say, let's leave things better than how we found them. That includes our energy. What energy are we leaving in the wake of us being there? Uh, and that the dogs, we come home from the day and we've had a hard day. It's been a busy day. We're exhausted. Our animals, our cats, our birds, our dogs, whoever our animals are, pick that up in a heartbeat. So, do you feel like we're more likely to encounter need during this time of year versus other times a year? Because in a way, those emotional reactions are needs. We're expressing our needs through our reactions. But would you say that we're more likely to encounter need, or would you say we're more aware of it at this time of year? I have a good friend who is 87, 88, and he used to just give at certain times a year, like Christmas or end of year or whatever. And he's learned that he loves giving wherever the need is. And it's kind of the mindset of, oh, there's needs all the time. I can do it repeatedly. So it's really a beautiful thing to understand. Karen says our dog Sky would not like going into a certain park. She would walk around almost SAS style, looking for. Oh, thank you. Looking nervously around. She just didn't like the vibe. It was very closed in. It's interesting you can describe that too, because the animals will, they'll encounter it and you'll watch their bodies react and you'll watch it in their eyes. And then but you can put it into words and kind of spirit them away. Um Tracy says that she feels like people are more aware at this time. There's not necessarily more need. Lori says she thinks it's both. It's both. There's not one way or another, and it's what you've encountered that maybe it's even more heightened now, so that the need is even maybe it's a greater need. So my question, what is your response to need or suffering, what you would perceive as suffering in people or animals? How do you respond? Let's use another word, how do you react? How do you react to that? Um, do you have an immediate, like something that you can, like a gut feeling that you have, or is it something you think about later? Does it affect you in the moment when you see need or suffering? And again, suffering, um, interesting word. We can all agree on suffering, but if we were to ask the person or the animal, I don't know, we'd have to ask, would they consider themselves suffering? So it's an interesting distinction. Liz said that she has an immediate response, an immediate response. I was driving yesterday and I thought that I saw some notice where there were animals running around, and I noticed it within myself. I immediately tensed up because that seeing an animal running on the road and it just so intense, and the potential for tragedy so quick and immediate. But I noticed that in myself as well, that immediate kind of hit, that response that was already there. um, and Jeff says gut feeling in the moment and processing later. So true, so true. um, that's an interesting, we'll talk about that a little later, about being in the present moment and what we pick up and then what we process later. So, what would you say the different types of animal needs are at this time of year? I'm curious. Um, what are some of them? I mean, one of the most obvious needs for animals is homelessness. Would you agree? And are they homeless in a shelter as well as on the street? And the street obviously posing its own set of challenges, just like the shelters uh, pose their sets of challenges. Um, Heather says, I totally have a response right away. You can see it in their eyes. They can feel it in your eyes. Yes. Yes. Especially, yes, totally. The eyes being the windows to the soul. Absolutely. Um, what other have you encountered any needs from animals this so far? Even this year, but especially now at this time of year? Um, what about sick animals? They're obviously in need. Um, what about injured? What about animals in the transition process, right? Needs, easy to recognize. What about animals in our own home? If it's not a physical issue, if it's not something that you can sit and address, you see it, you can address it, what other kind of needs would they have at this time? And I'm seeing more and more and more of that with clients and animals, and uh, almost like it's a quiet need. It's a quiet need that they may or may not put on display. Uh, and Deanna says sometimes even homeless when in a home with an owner. Good point. Yes, that very alone feeling of being in a crowd and yet feeling very alone, and being with someone that maybe is not a good match either way. Susie says, every single day I see animals in need, many in transition now, and some unexpectedly, and suddenly humans too. Susie, would you say, and I know you go into shelters, would you say that it's increasing from earlier in the year? Would you say that the emotions with people are running deeper? Um, let's see. Is it Jonah? Jenna? I'm sorry. There you go. Jonah. Just got a little hospice dog from shelter yesterday. I'm worried about him. I'm hoping I can make him comfortable for the remainder of his life. He was very neglected. I'm staying positive to try to give him the best chance to recover. Well, I just get all over body chills with this. What a blessing and a gift you've given that little dog. And I've always said one of the greatest gifts we can give them is our presence and our love. And animals actually don't mark their life in terms of days, hours, weeks, months, years. They actually are such in the present moment that they soak everything up. And so if you can step into the space of holding the space for him and just loving him, like you're gifting him with love. And if he and they have animals have told me this, if we're loved for 1 minute, 1 second in a lifetime that was maybe by any standards cruel, then we've lived a rich life. Butch told me that. And I've never forgotten it because it means moments matter. It means whatever we're doing from our hearts matters. So no time, no moment is wasted. So I love that you just love him every single day and then let him participate how he wants to participate. I love that you've done this. What a gift. So Barb says they are responding best us having peaceful energy and giving them more touch. Yes, you're right. It's the magic of touch, right? I have to keep remembering that they are evolving too. Oh, yes. And they're having their own experiences of that and us, just like kids. You have three kids and they all have, well, mom was like this and dad was like this, and they're all having their own experiences. You think you're being the same throughout, but they experience us at different ages. When we're at different ages, when they are, it's fascinating when you really realize, oh, the animals are too. Wonder what they think of me. Wonder what they're receiving, right? Um, so a big question to ask is, what are they in need of? What are they in need of? And what informs you? What informs you what the need is? Is it your mind? Is it your heart? Is it both? It's best when our minds and our hearts do work together as opposed to separately. Um, so how can we use our intuition to feel into a situation before thinking or projecting onto it? And Renee, if you would put up that graphic. I was thinking of this because often we project really quickly onto a situation, and if you look, this person it has a seeing eye dog. She's walking along, and you see where the guy's observing, little backpack guy says how sad her life must be. The little kid who's thinking, and you see the little bubble, is just feeling friendship, connection, joy. So, do you see a difference in projecting where we go to our thoughts really quickly as opposed to just being present with whatever's happening? So, how does projection play a role, right, in our lives, and how do we catch ourselves at it if we're wanting not to project, especially with animals? Especially with animals. The mind's so quick to form an opinion, a definition, a label with situations or people. It's a practiced habit, and it almost like it's a normal response for so many of us. The mind goes straight to creating a story around it. And then when we do that, we actually separate ourselves from the information in the moment. So what if you were able to retain presence even while you were encountering life? And maybe you do. Maybe we do that most of the time. The reason I bring it up is because how we live from the inside out affects animals and everyone else around us. So it would behoove us to kind of, pay attention to what our inner climate is. And so yesterday, I had a situation with one of my dogs. I was on my property with my animals, seeing everybody and connecting with all the babies there. And so I have a dog named Scooby. And Renee, if you would put Scoob's picture up. Scoob is Scoob's a little interesting guy. He's 12, and he came to me many, 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 many years ago. He was running in the woods, and he was right across from our house, and he kept popping out to show me he was there, and then I could feel he was homeless, or what I would consider he doesn't have a home. But he interestingly wouldn't just come to me. It was clear that he wanted to connect, but he couldn't quite make the leap to connect. So, you know, fast forward, I ended up 3 weeks later, he was roaming around, popping in and out, and um, for that time, and I was able to, with a neighbor, to kind of get him, and then brought him into my property and my home and my sanctuary. And he spent about, I'd say, 3 to 4 weeks just detoxing, like, just uh, like, from being on the lam for so long, and whatever his situation ahead of me was, to, in training, we talked about that last time in the show, in training and in meshing to the new energy, the calmer energy, the energy of inclusion and love and space. And so it takes a minute, for our bodies to adjust to that, even if it's the most wonderful thing ever. If we're not used to it, it takes a little time. So yesterday, Scooby was at the vet because he's always had like super sensitive skin. And so the vet, I got him to the vet for him to look at that. I had somebody take him for me, and then I'm picking him up. And when I picked him up, and they addressed his skin, and we talked about what it is. And so when I picked him up and he got in the car, I was like, "Whoa, you really look like you don't feel well." But he didn't feel right to me. And I know that's probably a generic statement, but his energy didn't feel normal. It didn't feel right. His life energy actually felt super low. So it was confusing. So, I get him back, get him settled. And as the afternoon wore on, he really kind of plummeted. And I thought, well, maybe he's had a reaction to something that he got. So I call the vet, and I'm like, something's not right. And could he have had a reaction to something? This is what he's doing. And the vet said, if you want to bring him back, I'll take a look at him. I said, I will be there in 2 minutes. So I go to get Scoob, and we put a harness on him because at the time he came to me, Scooby was a runner. So he would get moving fast, and he would like trail off. So anyway, I had a harness on him, and as I was getting down to get him, he just wasn't going to move. He's like a log. So we all had to work together, and it's easy to react because you don't know what's wrong with them. You don't, it's immediate. You're in the moment. You've got to act. I've got to get him to the vet. But what I noticed within myself was this calm sense of knowing what has to be done. I hated rousting him, but I knew it was for his best, uh, for his best. And so when I got him to the vet, it turned out there were a lot more deeper things going on with Scoob. Things that didn't weren't necessarily skin related for sure, but definitely deeper things like heart and thyroid. And I was so grateful to be able to get him back there for the vet to work with me on the dime in a minute, because even in the morning he had been a drop off, not an actual, scheduled uh, kind of time with him. And so it's easy to look at situations like these and get really reactive and get really worried. And I guess I've always tried with the animals, 'cause I know that when I get really worried, they get worried. And then we're all worried. And I'm not helping them. And I'm not as grounded, and I don't make clear decisions. So Scoob's at home today. He's a little tired. He's a little low energy. So I'm hoping he recovers. But I wanted to tell you that I think during this time of year, we have to be ready to be on our feet. I didn't know that was going to happen yesterday. I'm so grateful I was there, and so grateful that I could be with him. And so that's as good as we can get, because if we do our best that way, we're not trying to control all the circumstances. So I have a question for you. And Renee, if you'd put up the cat photo for me, you see, you, s- let's say you see feral cats. What's your response? What's your reaction when you see feral cats? What you would consider feral? And are feral cats homeless? And what's their perspective? What do you pick up from this photo? These are feral cats, mom and three kittens. That used to be a little outdoor house. You can see that they've decided to make it into a little hammock. This is outside of an office. And there's several different, cats that come and go. But what do you see in this? Is this a homeless family of cats? Is it what are they what do you think their perspective is? Are they afraid? Are they comfortable in their surroundings even though they don't have a home per se? Deanna says happy cats and they are home. I would agree. Would you say that they have a sense of family that we maybe don't see when we see a stray cat, right? Living life on their own terms, says Janet. What do they value most? What do feral cats value most, you think? And Susie says to them, their family. What do you what would anybody else like passerby think, about these cats? Oh, they're a nuisance or they're they're in my way. It's interesting the variety of things. And Tracy says, I'm not seeing unhoused. I'm seeing they are as they wish to be. Totally. And what do they value most? Janet says, freedom. Would you agree? And Barbara says, I think so. Keeping the family together. A beautiful, loving family. Isn't it beautiful? And would you also agree, I mean, if we really want to talk about it, what does home really mean to any of us? And what does family mean? I always have felt no matter where I've gone in my life, whether it's businesses or in school or whatever, I've noticed I always see family wherever I go. It's just natural. So family, it's not necessarily the people you were born, with and into. Family is here on the show together, right? It's a gathering. Um, and so Barbara says, working for a rescue, we would trap and fix them, then release back into their home territory. Yes, yes. I don't sense that these cats are stressed. Do you? I really feel that they're a really good example of being present where they are and um, understanding. I don't think they're suffering, right? And they're snuggling and they want to be together. Absolutely. So, another situation you see a homeless person who has a dog or cat. Yes, looking like they're snuggling together. I agree. You see a homeless person who has a dog or cat with them. What emotions get triggered? I saw it the other day. Somebody on the side with a dog, and he was asking, had a little sign up. What's your response? What emotions get triggered? And does the animal feel homeless? This particular animal was sitting down, waiting on his person, not necessarily looking stressed, not looking disturbed. Um, Question: does the animal feel homeless? Does the animal feel like it's suffering? Lori says compassion gets triggered in her. Um, yes, yes. Don't we? And isn't it interesting? We all, I would think, would agree that that's what the world is working on right now. Like more compassion, please. Um, and Tracy says, I'm thankful they have each other. Um, yep. Hi, Diana. Diana says, nope, the animal is good. They are the pack. So a dog or cat is found on the street and rescued. Did they know they were homeless? Did they know they were homeless? Renee, if you'd put up Ollie, I brought Ollie to you some time ago. I wanted to see Barbara's comment first, though. I used to feel sad, but now I have seen them so happy living a life in nature with their best human friend. Yes, yes. Laurie says, I feel like the person sometimes is using the animal as a tool to earn money, feel trapped. Very, very possibly. And I would agree. I would totally agree. Kids, you see a mother with children with a sign, it's, you know, it's almost like you have a distinct immediate reaction. So Deanna says initial worry that the dog is being well taken care of, and have tuned in to the animal in that place. And it is their place to be helper, companion dog. It's interesting when we see animals and it's like we project really quickly with an opinion because of whatever our conditioning has been. So this is Ollie, and Ollie came to me 2006, Christmas Eve, actually, December 24th. It was getting late too. But he had shown himself to me the week before, every day the week before running. But he was so feral and I could not catch him. I mean, it wasn't going to happen. So, in a miraculous, truly miraculous December 24th, 11th hour before it's getting super dark and it's raining, and my family and I are all, in a laying like combat style in dirt and grass and mud, and he's in this drain pipe. Um, he finally, I was able to get him and hold him, and I remember being so shocked that I actually was touching him. And so Ollie spent the next 3 months debriefing, detoxing, even considering being around me. He shook violently around people and me. So I sat with him. I just would sit with him. I didn't say, poor dog, poor dog. I didn't actually have a poor dog feel. I was, it was just more of a compassionate witnessing of his process through his body. And then about, I'd say 3 weeks or 4 weeks into it, he was like, oh, I can shake and nothing happens. And then the shaking stopped. And that was his choice, though. I wasn't trying to soothe the shaking out of him. I was letting his body release the fear and worry and anxiety. So he'd been on, I believe I don't know if he's ever been anybody's, but the reason I bring him up is, did Ollie know he was homeless? I didn't get the sense that he had had a family before, almost like he was a nobody, nobody's dog. So if they're homeless and on the street and he gets accustomed to his lifestyle, did he feel homeless? Because it's interesting to think about the different perspectives with the animals at this, especially during this time of year, because we're being shown a lot within ourselves and the animals are showing us that as well. So what emotions do the animals feel at this time of year? Do they get excited, fearful, worried? Do they feel emotion? And if you would pop up that emotional guidance scale real quick, Renee, again, do our animals have this set of scale of emotions that they feel? And I think, maybe we could all agree that we've seen our animals kind of worried, um, angry. We can see when they're in joy and enthusiastic. So isn't it interesting? The same things that we go through, they go through. So that's why we have to watch, how closely we mirror and match that. And so I want to share with you Darby and Diana. So if you would put that up, Renee, that'd be great. So Darby and Diana and their mom are wonderful beings, wonderful souls. Darby's on the left and Diana's on the right. And so um, the the question for them is, what started out as a really good relationship and a really good setup, now the situation has changed in the house to where Darby's had some health issues that require a lot more attention and rehabilitation, and Diana, who's 5 6 months old now, she's a little younger in this, but you can see how curious, is happy. She's coming into her own. She's just wide open. And so where that worked earlier, now the question is, well, is this the best space for everybody? And I know it's hard once we've made a decision to, you know, take an animal in, hard to then think, well, I'm thinking of rehoming, or would it be best for them? So it's a slippery slope we can go on. So it's not exactly a cut and dried answer. And what I worked with my client friend on was is just we opened it up to see what they were feeling about it and how what their opinions were. We asked, we they shared, and then we looked at, because we're all tied in together, we looked at how, you know, how we were reacting within ourselves, how she was reacting about all this. And when we open our minds and we open our hearts, that's when solutions can really come. So what unfolded from this in, this, where it had developed into kind of a tense, crowded situation is, um, Diana feels like she's be happier, like having more space, being able to tear through the house. And Darby, on the other hand, is in a lot of rehab and needs quiet. Whereas their two environments are so different. And so, if you ever have situations where you've got animals and you're torn about what to do, it's always good to just take a look at it from their angles and what's best for them. And what we're feeling ourselves. Are we feeling guilty? Well, let's take a look at that. Are we feeling judgmental of ourselves, like we take them and we should never let them go? Yeah, we should take a look at that because there's a lesson in it for all of us. And so this is a happy ending in that everybody is readjusting to the new energy field and everybody's getting what they need. So it's a win win. And so I want to share another one real quickly with you. It's if you'd put up Keiko, Renee, I'd appreciate it. So, basic question: my dog Keiko experienced trauma from the moment she was born. She and her siblings were cruelly discarded at birth. With the trauma and grief that I'm experiencing, do you feel Keiko is strong enough emotionally for both of us to get to a calmer place in time? So that's a biggie, and it's one that this would be an animal in need. Would you agree? And a person in need. And so, uh, the interesting thing is, and this is from Lori, that I feel like the two of you are paralleling lives together here with what you're here to learn, where you both experience trauma, and it's not necessarily one trauma, it may be multiple traumas that you've experienced. So you're both learning what it is for family to be together and what that really means. And you're witnessing each other's um, pain. I think somewhere I had read when you emailed me that she whimpers or cries at night sometimes and wonders if she's actually released it all. Well, trauma is an interesting thing with bodies, is it will waft back through sometimes until and it's just there to be kind of released. And so, I know you comfort her, and so she comforts you. But I do feel like the both of you actually are strong enough emotionally because you've made a soul contract together to go through life and learn how to balance in the face of many different challenges. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that's really good because it shows how we're all in need, right? And it's not necessarily related to a time of year. So, what can we do to help, right? What can we do to help all our animals that we love, the ones on the street, the ones in the air? What can we do? And so, Renee, if you'd put up that, what I would just suggest is it's kind of a daily inner practice um, to develop a keen sense of awareness, notice what you notice, like be aware, balance your emotions. I don't know how you do it, but each of us has a way to kind of right ourselves after we have gotten off balance. I know I have to like go outside. I have to move and clean up our energy. Like like we take showers, we need to clean up our energy and just do a check-in and then figure out, well, what cleans up our energy. Personally, we each have different ways we do it. But I definitely am a big, even if you've been somewhere, take a shower. It also helps the animals. Give them a bath. It switches up the energy. Practice neutrality and patience and hand out kindness and smile from your heart. I when you smile from your heart, we actually do that. It actually creates a different vibe. You'll be able to feel it emotionally and immediately. So, all these things that you do as a daily practice, guess who it helps? The homeless animals, the animals in our home who may feel the pressure and the energy from too much activity. So here's some practices for helping animals in need. Renee, if you'd pop that up. So maintain a peaceful, calm environment. Probably goes without saying, right? For all of us. But ask your animal, what do you need in the present moment? Get very present with the animal and just say, what do you need? You can do this with animals you're passing on the street and you're in the car. You can do it with your own animal at any time, and you will get a feeling, you'll get a nudge, you'll get an idea of what to do. Talk with your animal, like literally. I tell you all the time, they get it. They hear you. You don't have to yell. They actually understand you, and they will talk back, sometimes quite vocally, by the way. You spend quiet time together. Don't we all need that now? Like in busyness, quiet is the best medicine sometimes. And spend quality time. It doesn't have to be a lot, it doesn't have to be quantity. Moments are quality time. Moments matter. Moments are what you're going to remember always with people or animals. And send love from your heart to theirs. That's easy, especially if you don't feel like you can do anything with an animal who's in need, um, and you're unable to physically help. Send love. It's a huge, huge gift and help. And soften your voice when you talk to them. You remember when we had to go in the hallway at school and it'd be like, quiet voices, children? That's what we want to do. I'm pretty sure we learned everything in kindergarten, so we know how to soften our voice and acknowledge others. Just say hello, recognize them. Um, I always just do this naturally on the bike is I'll nod my head and smile. I do it with cars. I notice I do it with like everybody. And people will respond back. And, I notice a lot of times people will smile, which I really like because, we don't see those often enough and maybe we don't do it ourselves enough. And always see the diamond light of their soul. That everybody. You see that in them, and that allows you to uh, stand firm within your own and see your own. And then practice what I call hugs. And Renee, if you would put that up, I am all for like words that evoke feeling. It's like a dual purpose word. So everybody knows what a hug is, right? You say hug and you can feel it immediately. Um, so hugs is a little acronym I came up with, if you're in a stressful situation, if you are off balance, if you can just remember this, it's going to help you. Like H would be heart centered. So drop into your heart space. You can do it. You can do it standing in the grocery line when everything's chaotic. If you're the one centered, heart centered person in the room, you're helping everybody. And two, or the U is understanding. Like, be from an understanding energy. Not that you understand what's happening, but you are understanding in your heart and your being. And G could be you come up and with give, grace, grateful. If we go through that and we come to the G, we could say any one of those and watch your heart change. It's immediate. Those words carry quite strong energy. And I like the last one probably best is share. Just remember we're always sharing our energy with everybody. And if we share hugs, right? That's something that we share together. And when we are in the space of the heart-centered understanding, the grace, the grateful place, this is where we will meet all of the animals, no matter where they are in their situations, so that if our if we're congruent with the energy of the situation, the right action arises out of the moment, and it will feel, congruent within yourself and without, and you're able to uh, hug your animal, hug your the people in your life. My son, when he was my oldest son, used to stop all the time, and we'd be in the middle of something. He'd go hug, and so I'd stop and give him a hug, and he would do that wherever. And he'd be in a store and say hug, and I remember the person that was behind the counter one time said, "Oh, he just wants something," but he didn't. He just wanted a hug. It was just like a moment of, "Oh, I'd like a hug," and it was so beautiful, and it was interesting. She was projecting onto that moment. That wasn't intuitive on her part for sure. So I wanted to share that with you. These are like tools to help us all, and if it helps us, it helps our animals. And so every situation contains informations and details to help you navigate life. So we're constantly gathering it without realizing it. So remember, what's contained in the parts is represented by the whole, and you're aware of more than what you realize, especially with the animals. You are quite aware. And Heather says, I know when Bertie was ready to pass on, both Ollie and Georgie probably knew that she was leaving us before I did. They gave her so much love and support. Ollie and Georgie guided me through this transition, and Bertie in her own way. It's called Love Animals, Sense Everything You Feel, Smile, Love. You're going to make me cry. Hug and listen to what they all need. Don't we all need that? People and animals? That's beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. It's amazing. We're all, helping each other without realizing it. Liz said, we're all so blessed. Diana goes to her new home this Friday evening in a big house with a big loving family and 3 fur friends. Dogs about her size. She will be thrilled. When we relax and open our hearts, we get the information so much easier and it's a matter of just not restricting, and we don't even know that we're restricting. So what's the number one way to shift the energy of any situation, person or animal? I'm curious. What's the number one way? Do it in a minute, do it in a second, do it in a breath. What would you say it is? We all can do it because we all have this particular quality, this particular vibe. What shifts it for you? If you want to shift the energy of any situation, what do you do? Ah, I love it. Liz says she releases. Tracy said smiles. Katrina, love. Yes, get into our hearts. 100%. If we're going to jump into any pool, let's jump into that one. Let's jump into that particular vibe because we all need it. We all can use it. And you know what? It's a renewable source. It's never ever gone. Even if we're grieving terribly, and we've all been in that pool, all of us. If we feel this, then we're handing out blessings, I like to say. Bring a pocket full of blessings wherever you go. And whether it's a smile, um, whether it's a hug, whatever it is for an animal, whether you're just, giving them a kiss on the head, whatever it is, just be whatever you're moved by, be moved by your heart. And Barbara says, give the unconditional love they give to us. Yes, yes, there are our greatest teachers in that. And Tracy says, gratitude changes it immediately. That's so true. I feel like gratitude is almost like a smile in our heart that just gets bigger. Would you say gratitude is a warm or cool energy? What would you say? Love, a warm or cool energy? Hmm. Let's think about those different buses of all the different energies. And if you can start looking at it the way of, warm or cool, that's an instant indicator if it's a good energy to share, right? Because warm is expanding, Tracy says. If it's a cool energy, it might be more neutral, but it could be more restrictive, right? If it's cool. Janice says warm. Yes, yes, I agree. Yes, it's a warm energy. All those. So if you look on that emotional guidance scale, if you're re-listening or you're rewatching this and you want to, kind of intuitively feel, go through that emotional guidance scale, warm, cool energy. It's really interesting. A calming energy. Oh, yes, I agree. So all these things shift the energy within ourselves, within our animals. And this is perfect, Chrissy. Love hugs. I love that. Do that and practice it every day and watch your animals warm up to that. And whether you can help the little one on the street, you will help it by your vibration. So we all just step into the moment and do what we can. Well, darn it, we are out of time. And I wanted to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for, um, gosh, helping create the energy field of true love. And if anything's needed now, it's that in the world. So next show will be on December 14th. I'm really looking forward to that. I've already had drop-ins coming. Cannot wait to share. So come back. We need to talk. Let's always keep the conversation going. I'll see you next time.
You've been enjoying Tammy's Soul Speak featuring animal intuitive and medium Tami Hendricks.